we are joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, we have Jett Luchanko with a nice game. We have overtime hero Matvei Michkov. I've been doing well all show. But the thing we have to ask about, do you have anything new on Kolosov? No, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to you, Chuck.
Did he terminate his contract, Charlie, during the game? Did it happen?
As far as I know, he did not.
Okay.
Charlie, Matvei Michkov, 2 goals, including the overtime winner. We are, Kelly and I are now predicting Hart Trophy, Rocket Richard, Stanley Cup, Conn Smythe.
Yep.
How are you feeling about the Mad Russian after tonight's performance?
Well, he's checked every box. He's having what is undeniably a fantastic preseason. And I think what's exciting for me as someone who covers the team is that I really wanted the fan base to get into this. And look, I don't know how the beginning of the regular season is going to go. Maybe he'll get off to a slow start. Who knows? But the Flyers, it's not even the Flyers. It's more just the perception of the Flyers. I think there's kind of a wave going on right now, and it's in large part, if not entirely, being driven by the excitement around Matvei Michkov. And if he would have just been decent in preseason, if he would have been fine, but nothing spectacular, people would have still been excited. But the fact that he's doing what he's doing in preseason, it's only going to bring more and more people onto the bandwagon. It's going to have more and more, hockey curious fans in Philadelphia say, you know what? Why don't I give this team a look? Because this Michkov kid seems like he could be something. And that's what excites me, because I want the Flyers to be relevant again. I want people to be excited about this team again. And this preseason is exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of getting people back into the Flyers, or at least giving them a chance, like giving them the incentive to give the Flyers another look.
Yeah, Charlie, we started the show, and I was like, listen, we will absolutely get into talking about how this affects the Flyers and how that's good. But from, a selfish perspective, we all started the show together before the 2016-17 season, and we said, man, as soon as this team's good, as soon as they have some exciting stuff going on, things are going to take off. And, the show's done pretty well for itself, but the team hasn't really cooperated. It just kind of feels like they finally are. I don't know if they're going to be actually good this year, how it's going to play out. But I have hope for the first time in a long time. And it's pretty much all on the shoulders of Michkov. He's as good as promised, it seems. And that's not something that's happened to us in a long time.
Yeah, I specifically asked Brad Shaw after the game about this element of it, because I basically said, look, dating back really since July, since he came over here, we've heard from Danny Briere, we've heard from John Tortorella, we've heard from everyone involved with the organization, basically saying, don't expect this guy to be a superstar right off the jump. There's going to be a transition period. It's going to take time. And I asked Brad Shaw, I said, when you're watching him do what he's doing in preseason, do you even start to think, maybe this won't take that long. Maybe he is going to be this good right off the bat. And Shaw dodged the question a bit, but he did say, look, he's picking this up maybe quicker than we thought. And I think he called it the learning curve has been steep, which I don't think was exactly the right way to put it. But I think what he meant was that he's improving, like it's steep in terms of the improvement. He's climbing the ladder very, very quickly, and the upward trajectory has been very steep and very quick. I think he more or less said that maybe they didn't expect it to be coming this quickly, but they love the fact that even from where he was a week ago, he is adding more elements to his game. He's looking better than he did this time last week. And I think that's very exciting to them. So he didn't straight up say, no, I think he's going to, score 100 points in his rookie year. But if you go back and you listen to the question, because I don't know if NBC Sports Philly will put it on their broadcast or whatever, but they'll definitely have it up on YouTube at some point. You can tell that he's excited. And Brad Shaw is a very straight-laced, even-keeled guy. If Brad Shaw is this excited, imagine how excited John Tortorella is watching this stuff.
Do you put any, yes, this was a great performance. And honestly, we were just laughing before you came on. Michkov has played 4 exhibition games. The only one of them that he doesn't have multiple points in is the rookie game. And as he's come into the NHL preseason, he's put up 2 points in each game. However, like tonight, I'm not going to pretend that Boston team out there had Pasta, had Marchand, had McAvoy. That's the Bruins B team. Does that dampen or at least like soften any of what you saw tonight? Or is it more just about look at what he's doing, hockey IQ and all that wise?
Well, rationally, yeah, this wasn't a high-end Boston team. This wasn't a Boston team that had their best players, and I'm sure it's going to be tougher. Objectively speaking, it's going to be tougher for him to do these sorts of things against Charlie McAvoy. Against the best players on any team, let alone the Bruins, who are a playoff quality team, a legitimately good team. It's going to be tougher. That said, and this is something that I'll always say in situations like this, it's better that he's doing it than he's not doing it. Like, yes, it's still preseason. Yes, he's not playing against top tier competition. But if he wasn't doing this, then we'd have that little nagging voice in the back of our head saying, well, shouldn't he be dominating? If he's as good as we think he is, or we think he's going to be, shouldn't he be scoring lots of goals and points and doing all the cool things in preseason games against B teams? Well, you know what Michkov is doing? He is doing exactly what you would expect a high-end, top-tier prospect to do against B teams in a preseason game. And to me, he's just checking boxes. Is it going to get tougher? Sure. And we'll see if he continues to check boxes and get it done when the games get tougher. But right now, this is as tough as it can be because these are the games that he's being asked to play in, and he's excelling.
So, Chuck, one guy that I was really looking forward to watching tonight because of how unsure he made me feel in the last game that he played was our friend Fetty. Ivan Fedotov. I thought he looked better tonight. What did you think?
I thought he was fine. I think Bradshaw actually called it great. I don't know if I will quite go that far. I thought he was fine. I think that it's never going to look pretty with Fedotov. And I think we do need to just come to terms with that he's never going to play the way that Ersson plays, certainly not the way that Carter Hart played, where a lot of their games were centered around technical soundness and just being in the right spot and playing the angles and things like that. Like, Fedotov is 6'7", 6'8". He's always going to look a little bit weird in that net. Like, I just think back to Ben Bishop. Like, Ben Bishop was not the most technically sound goalie in the world, but he was freaking huge, and he took advantage of his size. And generally speaking, he'd get that big frame in the place he needed to be to stop pucks. Tonight, I don't think Fedotov was incredible, but I think he was fine. It was his first full 60-minute game of the preseason. I think he did okay. I think, at the very least, the version of Fedotov we saw tonight is a dramatic upgrade over every single backup goalie they threw out there in the second half of last year.
Accurate.
Fedotov doesn't have to be great. He just has to be passable. Like, maybe he is not necessarily the solution in goal. Maybe he's not going to be a star. But for this team, and given the fact that he is in his late 20s, he's a win now type of guy. He's not a he'll develop. Nah, this is who he is. If he is a decent backup goalie in the NHL for 2 years, that works for me. That's all the Flyers are going to need, really. If the Ersson they get is the guy they got 2 nights ago, then they really all they would need is Fedotov just to be decent, and he was decent.
Charlie, it's funny because on the outline, like where I write my questions for you under the heading Charlie, it says first things first, Chuck. The Jett Luchanko report, and it's like, oh well, the game went a little differently than that. And that was not first thing, but
third thing.
Yeah, on our last show together, we had a debate about the merits of Luchanko in the NHL versus the OHL. And just kind of, okay, well, last game he played on Thursday. He was good, but it's not exactly, he has to be in the NHL. Wasn't that sort of performance. I thought he was good again tonight, and he was a hair away from a huge game. Like, just so close. A lot of almosts, both for goals and assists for Luchanko. But ultimately, I thought he played well, good in the face-off circle. What'd you think of Jett Luchanko?
I thought he was better tonight than he was on Thursday, personally. Yeah. I thought he did more things with the puck. He made more plays. The speed popped a bit more tonight, I thought, than it did on Thursday. I still don't think he did enough to bang the door down. I don't think it was a good enough performance. Again, and this is really the big thing we're going to be coming back to, is it's going to take a lot, and I think it should take a lot to put a just turned 18-year-old in the NHL. Like, he should have to go above and beyond. And I'm not saying he has to be doing what Michkov is doing, but in some sense, if he wants to make this team, he kind of has to have that kind of camp. He's having a very impressive camp, especially given his age, especially given the fact that, he wasn't a top 10 pick. We're not talking about a guy who's a universally accepted to be blue chip prospect. He is having a really, really impressive camp, and he is holding his own. I don't think, in my opinion, he did enough tonight to say he definitely should be on this team. But by the same token, I think he did enough to get another game.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, if in that next game he has that big performance, then maybe I change my tune. For me, I don't think he's done enough yet. But he also hasn't played himself back to juniors yet. He should still very well be in the. He should still be in the mix, and I think he is.
Speaking of in the mix, Olle Lycksell. He looked like a player out there tonight, Charlie. Yeah. It's a guy who's gotten a little taste in the NHL before, but now he's not waiver exempt. He's had 45 and 39 points the last 2 years in the AHL. He kind of is what he is. I think there is a role for him in the NHL on this team as a bottom six, maybe fourth line guy who can be on your second power play. Yeah, that wouldn't exactly be the identity of this team, but it's a possibility. What do you think of Olle Lycksell, and what do you think his chances of making the team are?
I thought he was really good. The passing, obviously, he sets up 2 goals. He sets up the Michkov power play goal. He sets up the Risto even strength goal, which I thought was a really impressive play by him. He goes behind the net, uses the net to kind of set a pick essentially. And then he has that pass from below the goal line. Me and you both love those kinds of plays. Goalies struggle with them. So I really liked him working down there. I thought he had a strong game. He could have probably had a couple more points. There were a couple almost for him as well. I think he's had a good camp. And right now, obviously the bulk of the conversation is going to be about Luchanko because he's more exciting. Is he going to make the team? Is he not? First round pick, 18 years old. I get it. In my mind, Lycksell has to be viewed, at least for me, the favorite to be the 23rd player on the roster, not Luchanko. I think he's done more. And I just think for him, this is his time. It doesn't have to be Luchanko's time now. This is Olle Lycksell's time. He's 25. He's no longer waiver exempt. He's played 2 full seasons basically in the AHL, and he scored point per game pace in both. He has nothing really left to prove down there. Very little left to learn down there. To me, you put him on the team. I mean, unless he bombs next week. There's another full week of preseason games, so things could change. But where I'm at right now with Lycksell is put him on the team, have him start out as a 14th forward, and then get him in games sometime and see what he can do. But to me, he should be on this team. This is his time, and he doesn't have to play every night. He can start out in the press box. But if somebody gets hurt, or if they need a spark, or if Torts is ticked off at some guy for some Torts reason, Lycksell should be the guy that comes in, and then we see what he can do. But to me, he's earning. I'm not going to say earned because we're not done the preseason yet. We're not done camp yet. But he is earning a spot on this team in a way that I don't think Luchanko is.
All right, Charlie. What was the next thing I wanted? I lost it now. Okay, the power play. Visually, it looked better. Is it that it's actually better, or is the bar so low that when we see them complete 2 consecutive passes, we're like, oh my God, we're looking at 17% maybe? What do you think? What's the, visually, it's definitely better, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it scored a goal. They didn't do a lot of that last year. So that's already a big improvement. 1 single goal, and you're thinking, oh man, this is way better. No, look, I think in the end, because they haven't done a ton of power play work in camp so far. I think that's going to kind of be a next week thing. They've done a little, but it hasn't been the primary focus. In the end, I think the big reason why it looks better, it's Michkov. I mean, that's the reason. It's his presence. And I made this point for years that one thing a power play needs, and this is a concept that I've very much stolen from the NBA and from NBA analysts who I respect. You need a player with gravity. You need a player who pulls penalty killers towards him because they're so concerned with what he's going to do. And then that opens up space for everybody else. And for years, really since Claude Giroux left, they haven't had anybody on this power play with gravity. No one who scared opposing penalty kills opposing coaches. It's pretty clear Michkov scares opposing penalty killers. They know he has the skill to make plays, and they have to cheat over a little bit just to make sure he doesn't burn them, and that opens things up for everybody else. Sean Couturier actually said that after the game because he was asked about the power play, and the first thing he brought up was, well, when you have somebody with Michkov's skill, that creates more space for everybody else. I'm not saying that just the presence of Michkov is going to fix the power play. They still need to have good plays. They still need to be coached well. The other guys still need to do things. But getting him, especially if he is coming in more fully formed than we feared he was, this version of him looks real good. I think he's going to have that gravity from the jump, and that's going to improve the power play already before we even get into, hopefully, legitimate tactical improvement.
Oh, Kelly, do you have anything else?
How did Sean Couturier feel about being the first guy to fight in the preseason, just as we all predicted?
I mean, he had some good answers, I think, at the intermission broadcast. He more or less echoed what he said to NBC Sports Philly. I asked him after the game, basically, like, this is something that is probably not the last time that someone is going to mess with Michkov, because teams are going to go in and they're going to see this hotshot prospect, and they want to see if they can intimidate him. They want to see if they can get him off his game. And I asked Couturier, like, was it important, even in preseason, to make it clear that if you mess with this kid, you got to answer to the whole team, not just Nick Delorier. Like, Sean Couturier ain't a fighter, and he didn't hesitate to drop the gloves. And Couturier straight up said, yeah, we need to set that precedent that you don't mess with this kid, and if you do, you're going to have to answer for it. I think that was big, and I think it was really cool that it was Coots, too.
It was great.
I as much as the idea of the captaincy frustrates me, because I think fans overrate it a lot in terms of thinking that the captain has this magical ability to make a bad team good or a good team great or whatever. I do think in these types of situations, the fact that it was the captain who did it, the captain who stepped up, like, that sets a tone. Yeah. And especially when you have a captain who isn't a fighter. Like, Couturier does not enjoy fighting. This is not something he does.
No.
But in this situation, he felt like he had to, because the kid was getting messed with, and he wasn't going to let that happen. I think, number one, it speaks very highly for his character. I mean, I think we've all known that Sean Couturier is a good dude, but I think fans who maybe were skeptical of him being captain saw this and probably now understand why he was named captain. I think it showed really well for Couturier, and it also showed really well for the room, because these guys are united around Michkov already, and I think that's really cool.
Clear. Yeah, the way that they celebrated that overtime goal at the end, it is clear that they love this kid, and it's genuinely lovely to see, really.
When a 32-year-old veteran fights in the preseason, everyone else has to go like, all right, this is the expectation, and that's the culture they've been trying to set. Before we let you out of here, Charlie, was there anyone else who stood out one way or another? Maybe Tony Dick, Anthony Richard, or Oliver Bach? Was there anyone that you made note of one way or another?
You know who I thought had a really strong game, and not just because of the goal? I thought Risto played really well.
He did.
I think this is the second straight preseason game, because Risto played on Monday against the Habs. I think he's had two really strong preseason games. I love the fact that at the end of regulation he dumps that Bruin, right as the buzzer sounds. Like, it just seems like he's playing the game he has to play to be successful. And also he hasn't been a total slouch with the puck. He looks good. And he was obviously a big question going into this camp, given the fact that he missed basically the entire second half of the year with injury, had a major surgery, two major surgeries we later found out at the end of the season. I've really liked what I've seen from Ristolainen, and I think it's making me feel a lot better about the ability of him to come right back from this injury and play at the level he was at before the injury.
All right, Charlie, before we let you go, I know I just said that, but we saw Michkov's first Michigan attempt. You feel like he's got to save that for the regular season?
No, just do whatever it feels right, man.
Exactly.
He really didn't even come close to making this one.
No.
I don't even know if he actually got the puck anywhere near the net. You could tell he was trying to do it, but that they snuffed that out quick.
Yeah. All right, Charlie. Our next show together will be Monday at 4 p.m., the regular time. No pre and post for Monday and Tuesday's games. So we will be with you then. I will talk to you Monday, Chuck.
All right, sounds
Bye,
good.
Charlie.
Thanks, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.